The Mandalorian Season 2, Episode 4, The Siege. I'm going to be doing this video a little different than I have with most of my other review videos. It's not going to be a complete recap. I'm a little short on time. And I'll just say, this is actually one of my least favorite episodes of the entire series so far. Don't get me wrong, it has some great parts. I really love some of the tie-ins that are hinted at. But overall, it just kind of felt a little run-of-the-mill to me. Some fun action. You know, I loved the relationship between the child and Mando that is fully on display. It's growing to be a deeper relationship than it already has been. He literally drops the child off at school, which is something that my wife and I did for the first time a couple months ago with my daughter and preschool. It was just, you know, little touching things like that. That's some of my favorite stuff in the entire show, the relationship that is blossoming between these two unlikely characters, right? I really liked how the Mandalorian came back to Nevarro and it has been cleaned up since he last was there. Cara Dune and Greef, they've cleaned up the town, they've cleaned up the planet, and the video game comparisons are always heavy with the Mandalorian, right? This actually reminded me of Fable. If you guys have ever played Fable, specifically like Fable 3, I think it was. I could not put that game down. It was a blast. And as you progress through the game, you kind of start to own little sections of the map. You can own like a city or whatnot. And I don't know why. I haven't played Fable in like 6 years since it last came out. I don't even remember. But this scene reminded me of Fable. Like, this once kind of drab and dreary and run-down place is now vibrant. It's full of hustle and bustle. There's a school there. It's a thriving, peaceful community. And it was like, you know, this quest paid off. I don't know how to describe it. Did anybody else get that vibe? Or is it just me? I hope it's not just me. It'd be a little psychotic. One of my favorite scenes in this entire episode was between a kid in school and the child. The child wanted macaroons, man. I like macaroons too. My wife makes awesome macaroons, and just the playful nature of like the kid looking away and nobody seeing that the child used the Force. It was fun. The child is like the perfect little comic relief without being like slapstick and overly goofy, right? It's like playful and lovey, and I absolutely love it. So we find out that there's an Imperial base left on the planet, left on Nevarro. And Greef and Cara, they need to get rid of this base. And then, as Greef says, the planet will truly be free. After some fun action, running around, running and gunning through this base, we find out that the base isn't a military operation, it's a laboratory. They're running experiments. The scientist, who we saw in like a very, very early episode, maybe the first episode, I can't remember. Yeah, it might have been the first episode, but he mentioned something called an M count. M as in Mike, which can only be, I mean, I'm assuming midichlorian count, right? He basically talks about needing the child's blood. And it's funny because this has been my prediction for a long while, like a very long time. And it's always sounded goofy to me. It was my prediction was always a little tongue-in-cheek because it always sounded a little silly and goofy and almost too on the nose, right? And then if I ever brought it up on live streams or whatnot, people would always say, that's not how the Force works, or I don't think it works that way. But hey, as goofy as it is, I can finally put a check mark in the correct column when it comes to my Mandalorian predictions. I think this is the first one. So yeah, I mean, it makes complete sense, right? As goofy as it is, why else would they want this child? The child, it seems, is going to be a big reason for, like, Snoke, or even maybe the return of the Emperor. Was that Snoke? Was that Snoke in the, like, in the big tube, in the big vat? Was that Snoke? I have not looked this up. I did see a few people mentioning like an audio cue or some music or whatnot on Twitter. I haven't looked this up. I'm sure, you know, everybody is theorizing like crazy if this is Snoke or not. To me, it looked like Snoke. That was my first instinct when I first saw this this creature in the vat. Now, if that is Snoke, I do like the tie-in to the sequel trilogy. I like that. I'm not a fan of The Rise of Skywalker. Most of you guys know that. I thought it did nothing for me. Didn't like the direction the movie went in. Palpatine being back was goofy as hell, and I'm not a fan of that whatsoever. Snoke being a clone and seeing a bunch of Snoke heads floating in big jars, nothing for me. Whatever. But for whatever reason, man, this little kind of hint of Snoke's like creation, I kind of dig it. I'm sure they won't go that much more in depth than what we just saw when it comes to like Snoke and all that kind of stuff. But I kind of dig how the child could be the very thing that created all hell breaking loose once again in the galaxy. Does that make sense? Like, the Mandalorian doesn't know it, or I guess he knows it now, but so much hinges on the safety of this child, more so than he ever could have predicted or knew about, right? So yeah, it's interesting. I do like that aspect of the episode. Everything else in the episode just kind of felt run-of-the-mill. Nothing too crazy. Some fun action. It was all right. But I love weird stuff and like small weird stuff. I really liked the blue fishy guy when Mando walked in. He like shot out a bunch of sweat or whatever it was. I like that, you know, nervous. Sometimes you turn red when you're nervous. Sometimes you overly perspirate when you're nervous. I guess this fishy species lets out a big cloud of whatever. I like weird stuff in Star Wars, man. I like weird stuff in Star Wars. So yeah, the interaction between like the X-Wing pilot and Grief at the end of this episode was fun. I really liked when Mando interacted with these pilots a few episodes ago. Kind of the mundane, like, policing that is being done now, right? By the New Republic. It's just kind of dry and drab and, you know, just what is it? How tall was he? What did you see? Razor Crest, you know, just with a notepad going through the motions as if like a cop was quickly jotting down some notes after an accident on the highway, right? And it kind of gives off the sense that, you know, what we just saw isn't really necessarily that special, at least in the eyes of the New Republic. This guy has probably dealt with so much shit over the past few years, and you know, this is just another call. This is just another incident in the galaxy that he has to go and investigate, right? But yeah, what'd you guys think of this episode? It was all right. It was okay. Definitely my least favorite of the new season, but I'm curious where it goes from here. With Moff Gideon at the end, now we know like the true nature as to why they're hunting this child. But yeah, we'll see, man. We'll see. What'd you guys think? I'm suspecting that a lot of people liked it more than me. It's usually how it goes. Anyway, have a good one. HelloGreedo, out.